obviously the big question is, the top priority, Luke.
Who?
Any update?
Who?
Yeah, Luke.
Oh, I said who? I'm sorry. No, I mean, both sides are. This is part of the process. We're grinding through this together and presenting both sides stories and where we want to go with this and respecting each other's opinions. But this is part of the process. Unfortunately, we're disappointed he's not here. I know he's disappointed he's not here. I was texting with him yesterday, knowing that we will get through this at some point. We just don't know when that point is.
Would you be able to speak to the sense of urgency on your side and how close it might be right now?
Well, right now, urgency-wise, I mean, tomorrow's day 2 of training camp. And, I do believe every day you lose, it is an impact on a player. So from our end, yeah, there's urgency to get him here or to continue to strive to that common goal of getting a deal. And I believe on their end too, there's some urgency. So his agent and I, who I have the utmost respect for, will continue to push toward each other and knowing that each side has to continue to give.
I know you guys have like a hair over $6 million in cap space. Is this something where you're going to have to clear space before then, whether that's trade or LTIR?
No. We've have figured this out and know what our wiggle room is.
You said last time you spoke that signing Luke would pretty much impact what you're able to do for the rest of the offseason. Would you say that not signing him, did that hamper you at all in what you wanted to do? Or anything?
Well, we will be signing him.
Right. But I'm saying beforehand, like you said, that was something.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the unknown of what a contract will look like for this player, and giving us wiggle room of if there are things we have to want to do, can do, have assets to do. But right now, I've said it earlier, the top priority is signing Luke Hughes to a long-term deal, and that's our goal. It hasn't changed.
I would say that a couple other holes on your team, would you say that maybe top 6 wing and third line center is
well, it's easy to say that holes. I don't know. I mean that's a pretty deep word there. Holes. I don't know if we have that big of a hole up there. I think what we have is opportunity. When you look at top lines around the league, and I don't want to get into what a top 6 forward group looks like, or what complementary forwards look like with top players. All I do know is we have the opportunity for people to step up and possibly hold on to a position in our top 6.
Sheldon, for you coming into your second year and really going through your first full summer with the knowledge of a full year under your belt, how did the summer present itself differently to you? And upon reflection of that first year, what was the biggest takeaway for you when you did your analysis?
Well, I think the first thing is you come in and you've been through the fight with the guys for a year. You've got a greater sense of exactly where they're at and where the group needs to go to. Obviously, I was trying to educate myself as much as I could when first arriving and for my first training camp a year ago, and now it feels like home now, and I think there's a great sense from the players of what to expect from me, and then what I can expect from the players, and then how we can help each other get better. So there's that. In terms of the analysis on this season, I think the big thing that stands out and the obvious thing was our inability to just sustain our play, and whether that's even in the first half of the season and build some winning streaks together, significant winning streaks. Even though we were playing really well, we want to continue to pile up wins when we can, but then also just the consistency of our play in the second half, and that's a big part of it. But didn't have to dig too deep to see that we liked a lot of things that we did in the first half of the season, and quite frankly, I think a lot of that was set up through our training camp and through our experience going to Prague and the preparation that we put in and the work that the guys did to set us up to have success in that first half. And, I'd love to put ourselves in the same sort of situation again and look to get it right the second half.
You brought in Bradshaw to work with your defense. I'm just wondering, can you sort of give us an idea of, what he's like, what he's been like to work with, and what you hope he's going to be able to bring to your defensive core?
Yeah, he's been tremendous just with the coaching staff. I mean, really, up until today, it's basically just been the coaching staff and our own internal discussions, and he just brings great value. He's got tremendous experience in the league, lots of great perspectives. He's been a head coach at different times, and both in the minors and at times in the NHL. But he's worked under some incredible head coaches, some of the best that have been in our league for decades, and you can see that the confidence that he has and the experience that he has. To me, why he made sense and what I was looking for in bringing in a defensive coach was obviously there's two different branches of the role. There's the penalty kill, which our penalty kill was tremendous last season, and we expect the same this year, both with the personnel we have and with Shazi's ability and his experience. But then also there's running the defense and working with the defense and developing our defense as a group. And Shazi's got tremendous experience both with veterans and how to relate to them and how to help them get better and get their game in order, but also developing young elite defensemen. He's coached a long list of some of the best defensemen in our league and really high draft picks and all these sorts of things. And that's kind of where our defense is at. We've got a mix of veterans and really young players that we need to take significant steps for us to compete. And that's what I was seeking, and Shazi became available. It was a fairly easy decision from there.
Fitzy, for you to see Jack out there, healthy, he said he's feeling good, feeling great. I mean, certainly encouraging for you by all metrics.
No, for sure. Just the way things ended for him last year, that night in Vegas, and to see him today and, see the excitement and the love he has for the game and the work he put in this offseason. We've always said the sky's the limit for this young man. He's just got to stay healthy.
Going back to the D-core, both of you guys can answer if you would like, but going back to the D-core, that was a strong, consistent point for your team last season. Seamus Casey, Shimon Nemitz getting some good time in there throughout the season, and those guys talking with them yesterday and today saying that they really took the offseason seriously. How important is it to have guys like that to continue to push the solid six guys that you had last year?
Yeah, we showed last year how important it was, to have depth and have our young players coming and pushing, and both pushing our other guys, but also being ready when we needed them. We started the season last year with Luke Hughes and Brett Pesce, not available due to injury. So we needed guys to step in, the two that you mentioned, and both those guys I thought did a great job. Nemitz, of course, just, finished the season incredibly strong. Played his best hockey at the hardest time of the year. So that was tremendously encouraging. I think Bradshaw is going to be a real help for him. And as I just described, I think that relationship is one that's going to serve him and our whole D and team well. But Nemo, to me, it's very evident he's had a great summer. And he's put in work. I think he's learned a lot over the last year and came in much more prepared this time around. I think I'm sure would recognize the opportunity here. Kovacevic, of course, being injured long term. And then also just wanting to build on the way he finished the season. And then Seamus is going to continue to push. I thought he was a clear standout, in the game that he played out in Buffalo in the rookie tournament. You can see that he's a step ahead out there. Chalowski being here as well, another guy that's come in. Like, the depth is so important. I look at Edwards out there flying around. He's a young guy that I'm excited about and liked what I saw in Buffalo, like what I saw here today. So we've got great depth, and I think that's extremely important as we saw it. I think, my days in Toronto, we used to talk a lot about teams that are really serious about winning really need about 10 defensemen. They need to be that deep if you want to play a real long time and you want to be able to handle adversity. And I think we've got some great options as we saw last season. I think the group is even better this year around.
That's always been the goal, is to try to, build a deep decor, and it becomes a luxury when those kids start pushing through and are ready to play every day. Let's face it, goaltending is the hardest position on the ice, and defenseman is the second hardest. And it takes the longest for young defensemen to, get a good feel for this league and every day and be consistent and really what it takes. And we feel we do have some good young defensemen here pushing through, and it's funny because it makes my job harder, but funner too, because the replacements that you have coming. But you'll know when they're there, when they're completely knocking and you're really forcing his hand to move past veterans to allow these young defensemen to play.
And talking about goaltending, you just brought it up. Deciding to re-sign Jake Allen and some of the guys saying how important his personality is in the locker room, how he continues to push both Markstrom and help develop Nico Dawes. What are your thoughts about bringing him back, and what do you expect to see from him further?
Well, first and foremost, Jake Allen and his family decided to come back to New Jersey and pass up some things that were out there because of their love for this organization, this community, where their kids are in school, and that says a lot about them as a family and this area as a whole, and this us as an organization that he wanted to come back here. So that was great, and we're very fortunate to have Jake and his family here. And Jacob Markstrom's another one that wanted to be here in New Jersey. He chose us, and I was able to get a deal done last year and a half ago, and we're talking right now on extending Jacob. We would love nothing but for him and Amanda and their family to be here beyond this year, and he knows our love for him and his love for this area. So, but you know what? When you have two veterans like that, you might be a luxury, but they give us a chance every night, and that's all we're trying to ask out of our goaltenders is just give us a chance.
And talking about some of the fresh faces we saw on the ice today, particularly Connor Brown, who has been a part of the Edmonton Oilers for a couple of years, getting some really deep playoff experience, particularly in the last two. How vital is that to have more of that experience in the locker room when you are getting to March and April?
Well, it's uber important. The experience he has just these last couple of years, going through an injury he had a few years back. He's like a Swiss Army knife. You can put him anywhere. He's trustworthy. He's a very smart hockey player with good skill and high motor, and competes. And we just felt that was something that we couldn't pass on and add to our group to improve our middle six. And we look forward to him. Again, it's nice that he recognized where we are in this level there of our compete time. And Sheldon actually mentioned Connor's name today when I asked him about practice, and I'll let Sheldon talk about him.
Well, I see Brownie. I had the pleasure of coaching him my first year pro with the Marlies in Toronto, and then as close a seat as you're going to get outside the NHL to watching him with the Leafs there, and he's been the kind of guy I saw today. He drives practice, his engine, his work habits, his personality, his leadership qualities. And even though it's his first day here, he's still getting comfortable and all of that. You can just see the experience that he has, the confidence in who he is. He's absolutely all about the team, and I think his experience in being a part of the Oilers organization and playing as deep into the playoffs as they have, and getting to the finals, and playing alongside some very elite players, obviously, that they have there in Edmonton. To bring that experience over here, I think is tremendous. And today, as for day one, I think was a great example of what we're getting there.
Question for you both. It has been highly anticipated that y'all bringing Arseny Gritsuk over to the States. It's finally come to fruition. What excites you both the most about finally bringing him into the fold this offseason?
It's really been the biggest unknown for our organization, not being able to get eyes on the player for some time now. When you can add skill to your group and speed, it can only help your group continue to grow and get better. And he's bigger than I thought. He's thicker than I thought. I'm excited to see how quickly he can get accustomed to the big ice. There's not much room out there, what he's compared to. So, but from the start, he's made a pretty good impression on me because of the small things of the quickness, the shot. Talking to our goaltenders, they rave about his release, which is great to hear. So, no, excited to see where this young player can get to.
Yeah, I would echo the same. I'm not as educated, with him having being not in the organization as long, but when there's word of him coming over, you do your homework, and Sergei Brilin has been outstanding, both in, how closely he follows the KHL and Gritsuk in particular, and then really acting as the sort of the go-between to help him get adapted here and adjusted. But from what I've observed, today's the first day on the ice, but just being around the facility over the last few weeks, which he's been here putting work in and getting comfortable, he's got a great personality about him. He's eager to learn and wants to do well, of course, but he's also put in the work. I agree. He's got an NHL body for me, like in terms of his size. He's bigger and stronger than I was anticipating. And we think we can tap into that. There's been, lots of comments about his shot. There's been an equal number of comments about his ability to make plays and his ability to pass the puck. So lots to like there. There's opportunity available, and I'm looking forward to getting to know him better. How does he adjust? There's a long list of players that come from the KHL and they thrive and do well and become very productive NHLers, and there's a long list of KHLers that come over and struggle. So, we want to do everything that we can to get him on the path of thriving and supporting and helping our group and improving our depth. Today was a good step that started, with the work that he's done, in the last few weeks to get ready.
Sheldon, I know you talked a little bit about Brownie there before. So Dadanoff with Jack and Bratter. Can you speak to Dadanoff and what he might be able to offer to this club?
Yeah, I think he's been a solid complementary player in the league for a number of years. Playing with two guys like Jack and Bratter, I see it. Those are two guys that are puck dominant. They have it a lot, and Dadanoff has the ability when the puck comes to him to make a play, but he also, you look at it, you watch all his goals, he has a real knack for scoring in and around the net, which the puck can get there quite a bit playing with Jack and Bratter. And then the other thing is this is a good veteran player that we want to get off to a good start. He's played with a lot of good players throughout his time in the NHL. So it was somewhat of a natural way to start him here. We'll see how the training camp goes and how the lines go as things move along. But it was something that I wanted to see early on, and I was encouraged from what I saw today on the first day in terms of how he was working with those two guys.
And from a coaching perspective, does the absence of Luke affect your business on ice and what you want to accomplish, what you want to try to build with the program here in training camp?
No, I mean, I anytime something like this happens, we went through it last year with Mercer to start the training camp as well. As much as you're disappointed because you want all your players here. I mean, today's day one of training camp, but as I just described with Gritsuk, I mean, the guys have been here for, the whole team for almost 2 weeks, and they've been putting in lots of work. And today's the first day with coaches on, but they've been doing a lot of work on the ice and getting ready and the camaraderie and all the things that come with it so that you can have a great first day today when the coaches get out there. So you want everybody here for that time that's missed. You can't make that up, and you're kind of playing catch up from the rest of the season, quite honestly. But with that said, from my perspective, I treat it just like an injury, and I don't get worked up about these things. You got to press on. You get word. I mean, just yesterday we got word about LaChance and Lenny and their situations that they were going to be unavailable, and I was looking forward to watching those guys. Disappointing, but it takes about 2 seconds to move their names out. You put other guys in and you press on. That's my job as the coach, to build the team with what we've got available. And as we've talked a lot about here, I'm really excited about a lot of the depth guys. There's extra opportunity here now. As I said, Edwards was extremely impressive today, the way he moves around the ice, and he's a heavy guy at his size, and you get to see some of these things, and there's some great positives that can come out of that.
Tom, how far can this team go? Have you set a bar? I know, you're one to, not really push it. You always say the cart before the horse, but what's the bar set for this club at this stage?
Well, everybody's goal is to win a Stanley Cup, but to do that, you've got to have the right process. And if you asked me last Christmas, I would have said, yeah, we're a good enough team to win the cup. If you asked me, middle of the year, I would have said we're far from it the way we're playing. So consistency from the get-go is so important. I think the top teams in our league are consistent from game 1 to game 82, and they carry it over into the playoffs. And we were there. We just have to continue to take that leap to that next level with consistency, in my opinion. But we have that. We have the talent. We have the determination, the passion, the competitiveness. We have that in that room. And guys are saying the right things, and they're going to do the right things, but it's just putting it together for long stretches versus small little stretches like we did the second half of the year.
Tom, I guess following up on Mike's question, you've worked with Bill Zito on USA Hockey stuff, and you mentioned consistency. The Florida Panthers are obviously that. You have the elite goaltender. Sheldon mentioned the depth on defense. How do you sort of follow that blueprint and try to get to that point? Because you see where the level of a team like the Panthers are. How do you guys as a franchise sort of make that next step to get to challenge teams like that?
Well, honestly, what Sheldon said to our group yesterday in the opening meeting was fantastic and very clear, and there's no gray involved. And you lay out a plan. This is how we're going to practice every day. This is our systems. This is how we play. And then there's buy-in. And when players follow directions, then you can start achieving your goals, and you can build that consistency. What I'd like to see, and I think all top teams, winning teams, I use the word coachable. They're all coachable, but they coach each other. They push each other. They challenge each other. They make sure they're all on the same page. And that, to me, is the next step for this group. So our coach can sit back and allow 15 guys on the ice to stand up when somebody doesn't get the puck in deep with 30 seconds left and say, hey, get that in. To me, that's what championship teams do.
And you mentioned Jack Hughes and sort of staying healthy. What can he do for this team if he is healthy and able to produce it at the level that we've seen him do before in the past?
I said it earlier. The sky's the limit with Jack. He's an elite talent in this league, and we know that. And when he's at his best, he's one of the best talents this league has, and we're lucky to have him. So, injuries are a part of pro sports. Jack doesn't go out and want to get injured. He's worked really hard this past summer. He's gone through a lot the last couple of summers with the surgeries, and I'd like to think those are behind him. And we're all thinking what's ahead of him, and like I said, the sky's the limit for this young player.
Tom, just a couple more injury things. So, do you know exactly how long Kovacevic might be out, and is there a time frame there?
Yeah, he's, I think the original thought was anywhere between. We may not see him till the new year.
And same thing with Mason. Is that?
That's something that it was a nagging injury for him last season. Wanted to rehab it. His decision to rehab it this offseason to get better, and was very reluctant for surgery. But at the end, he realized what he was doing wasn't good enough, and he needed to go get it repaired. And unfortunately, it was later than we wanted it to be. But it was his decision, and here we are, and we'll deal with it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Thank you.